can't say we had huge experience of doing anything like this.
In hindsight, you think, what were we thinking?
The sport was ready to be taken up a notch.
My whole family, they wouldn't have even heard of women's rugby.
What are you doing running a World Cup? There's quite a lot of that.
As they scored a try just about any team in the world would be proud of.
They said, women's rugby, it's not a spectator sport, so good luck with that.
It wasn't so much we were running it on a shoestring, we were running it on a frayed thread.
We had no money.
People who want to watch the women mess about with themselves as opposed to play the actual game of rugby.
You were on the go every other day. It was brutal.
I probably had a breakdown, although I never sort of recognised it.
This is the first time that all these women's international teams got together. It was amazing.
All of a sudden I had the realisation that I could do this, that the 91 World Cup led to this moment.
This is the press release for the launch. We believe that the inaugural Women's Rugby World Cup will do more than put women's rugby on the sporting map. It will put the UK at the forefront for staging the event. It will establish the competition as an integral part of international rugby. Its success will set the standards for all future World Cups.
And do you feel you managed that?
I went to Penn State University. I'm one of 8 kids, so we needed somewhere that you could get state aid. My sister told me about this rugby match, and on the back of that, the first ever women's team started. So I played for 3 years at Penn State. An opportunity came up to work abroad, and I ended up in Britain.
How I got involved and immersed in the English way of life was really through the rugby club. They opened me with open arms, or welcomed me with open arms. I'm sure it had nothing to do with the fact that I was 6 feet tall and everybody else in the team was 5'6".
I'm from Minnesota, and I was 23 years old, saw rugby for the first time. My friend said, well, a women's team is starting. Why don't you go play? And I never looked back. I absolutely fell in love with the game, absolutely found my tribe, and thought to myself, right, where can I get better fast? I know, I'll go to England. What I found is that I had left a far more advanced infrastructure in women's rugby in the States than I found in the UK.
Right, come on in, let's have you in, quickly.
Swansea Uplands were one of the first teams in Wales to get going. But it really was a men's club, so we would always have the second pitch, which was always waterlogged and churned up and stinking.
We played at Finchley, it was my first year. We had changing rooms that had to be swept out from the men's game the day before, and then the bar cleaned up from all the glasses out from the Saturday night before you were ready to host your own games.
Whoever had a car would have to go around and pick everybody up on a Sunday just to go and play. Somebody would take the kit home and wash the kit. Everybody was contributing, otherwise it wouldn't have happened. The clubs were expanding, but it needed that lift to the next level. The sport was ready to be taken up a notch.
All you got is this moment. 21st century's yesterday.
I don't think women can physically play the game. I also don't think that women can attract enough people to watch them play the game. I think they'll have a lot of people who want to watch the women mess about with themselves as opposed to play the actual game of rugby.
I was absolutely shocked at the attitude towards women's rugby. We weren't treated as sports people. Men didn't like us in their territory.
It would always be jokes and jibes, or what happens is there one big bath that you all get into, or are you a hooker?
Who wants a wife to come home with bruised and battered on a Saturday night?
Cauliflower ears. I mean,
With cauliflower ears?
Yeah.
I think we'd rather appreciate the women as they are. Wonderful, beautiful. Let us go out 3 times a year to internationals and leave it at that.
Want lots of tackling, particularly from Stephanie and Barbara, the centres, all right?
Can I describe Deborah Griffin to you? A woman of immense talent across anything she decides to turn her hand to.
When I discovered the game of rugby, I just thought this was just like the best game I'd ever played. I was absolutely shocked how the girls at my school didn't want to play sport. I thought, well, that's a shame because I wanted other people to have the opportunity to play it and enjoy it.
I'd always gone out with rugby players. I spent many a cold Saturday afternoon freezing on a touchline somewhere. I went to the pub in Richmond, the Sun. Lots of rugby players hang out there. And met a couple of the girls, and they were saying, we need tall players, why don't you come give it a go? So I dug up my school lacrosse boots and went training.
We had been in New Zealand where we had heard that there was going to be a world tournament. And Debs thought, why don't we have a World Cup?
We knew there were certain teams playing, like France and Holland and Sweden and America. And it was really about bringing all those together so that we could move women's rugby on.
Debs took the idea to the Women's Rugby Football Union that there should be a World Cup in the UK.
They had said, yep, go ahead and organise it.
One of Deb's provisos was that she could choose her team.
I wanted to put a group of people together who I knew had the skills.
Mary was a finance director. She was chosen to do finance and all the budgeting.
I was working full-time for a property development company in the West End, which was lovely.
Alice was a journalist, rugby journalist.
I was the press officer of a Richmond women's rugby club. I was writing for Rugby World by then.
And my role was the commercial director.
But we were all in our late 20s, early 30s, so I can't say we had huge experience of doing anything like this. We were all working full-time, so we literally used to sort of meet up at 8 o'clock, divvy up the tasks that had to be done, and then go off to work afterwards.
Debs and I went down to the IRB based in Bristol at that time, the International Rugby Board, to talk to them about supporting the tournament. I remember going into this very big boardroom with this very large wooden table. We talked them through our plans and it was a very short meeting and we left. So they were done with us.
We didn't go to the IRB saying, we're not asking anyone's permission, we're finding out a way to make it happen.
We organized the 91 World Cup with no governing body support, union support. We had nothing.
I viewed it as organising a large tournament, so I think I just saw it as a series of things that had to be done.
We had to find out who had a women's team that was of an international standard. So there were no world rankings. We didn't know who actually played. We didn't know how to get in touch with them.
It was very difficult. There was no internet, no email or anything like that.
Overseas phone calls were really prohibitively expensive. And you needed to send people detailed documents quickly. The need for faxes was absolutely vital. And they went day and night.
My mum came over. She was sleeping in the new loft room where my desk was set up and the fax machine. Messages are coming in from all over the world by fax. And there's a time difference. And she would come down saying, some more paper came last night.
Initially, the biggest challenge was that the federation did not want us to play. We were absolutely an undercover movement. When arrived the information that we would be the first Women's World Cup, we were so excited. We were feeling that that was in the air, something that was changing, and we wanted to be there. The federation said, wait a second, they are going to anyway to play the World Cup. Perhaps it's time that we recognize them. And so that happened just 3 months before the Women's World Cup.
I wanted a host city that loved rugby. You know, there was no point trying to go to somewhere where football was king, and you know, we wouldn't make much impression at all.
We looked at a lot of the grounds in England, but we couldn't make the ends meet financially, and we had this idea that, you know, let's go down to Wales. What we knew is how strongly supported rugby is in Wales and how deep that runs through the Welsh veins.
The Welsh Rugby Union were very supportive. South Glamorgan Council put on all sorts of events for us. The Welsh couldn't have been more welcoming.
They offered us the home ground for the final, they offered us the opening ceremony, they offered us the closing dinner, and that was 3 huge elements to the event and just the making of the tournament.
Wales was the first country that was like, yes, we want to support the first Women's World Cup. It was like, wow, there's going to be a World Cup. There's going to be women coming across from all over the world that all play rugby. And to find out it was going to be held here was just unbelievable.
A lot of people in school were talking about it at Llanharan. Everybody knew about it. That was the news, you know. My family is a huge rugby family. And my grandfathers played, my dad played. From a young age was always dragged around to rugby matches to watch my older brother. But it was all boys rugby. You never saw girls playing. Prior to the 91 World Cup coming to this area, my dad, including all of my extended family, wouldn't have had any idea that women's rugby existed. A lot of the first team rugby players wanted to see what it was about.
We'd promised the teams that we would pay for the accommodation and food when they were here, and that all they had to pay for was to get themselves there.
We needed £35,000 back then, and my job was to raise that $35,000. Women's sport was very underfunded. There was no money in the sport.
Organizing a World Cup from scratch with finances that don't exist was all so very tight.
It wasn't so much we were running it on a shoestring, we were running it on a frayed thread.
I'd go into work and photocopy stuff, you know. We didn't have any, you know, money for stamps, paper for the fax machine. You know, we were having to buy ourselves.
I approached as many companies as I possibly could. I approached hundreds. And I remember picking up the phone and a corporate organization said to me, Sue, women's rugby is a participation sport. It's not a spectator sport. So good luck with that. I just couldn't unlock anyone that had the vision that we had. Companies saw us as novelty. In the end, we had no money.
We went back to all the teams to say that we didn't think we'd be able to go ahead with the tournament because we couldn't afford to pay for any of their accommodation or food.
They all came back and said, we'll pay for our accommodation, we'll sort it, we'll just come. We just want to come.
It was never a question of, is this going to happen? It was, an obstacle would come up and you'd go around it, you'd swerve it.
I decided that I was going to go buy the first ever Women's Rugby World Cup trophy. I worked quite near Hatton Garden. One lunchtime I went shopping, didn't tell the others, and found this beautiful cup in this silver shop. It was sort of lace and lovely handles. I wanted something that would last the time, and it was just stunning. And I bought it.
It's a solid silver antique cup, And I quite liked it. I thought it looked feminine, if you like, because I would have liked to have something larger, but quite frankly, we couldn't afford anything bigger.
The other three were furious at me.
It was £1,000. That was a big chunk of change.
I think we were all quite angry because we had no money, and to spend that money on a trophy seemed a bit ridiculous at the time.
Next year, Wales hosts the first Women's World Cup tournament, and teams involved are already stepping up their preparations.
The first ever World Cup next April will be the biggest development in the women's game yet, following on only 4 years from the first Men's World Cup.
It followed on from the European Cup that was held a few years ago, and there's only 4 countries playing, but we had so much interest from abroad that we decided to make it a World Cup, and it's just gone on in leaps and bounds now.
It got some coverage, but still only as a novelty thing. And there was quite a lot of detractors going, well, that'll be a load of rubbish, won't it? That'll be, you know, silly girls rolling in mud, which for some men was a very attractive prospect.
The rugby community really came together in Wales for us. The clubs, the volunteers, the referees.
We had an army of volunteers who were match managers, who were liaison between the teams, who were handling merchandise, all of whom are a whole team of unsung heroes, heroines, who gave up their holidays to come and help.
They needed some volunteers, people who were local, just to come in and sort out the practicalities. One of the things that we discussed was the after-match food. I suggested that they just serve sausage and chips because I was aware of our budget. And they said, there is no way that you are having sausage and chips after a women's international. It's not happening. You're going to have a full dinner and that's it. When you think they have men's teams here like Australia and New Zealand, the Barbarians, South Africa, and they didn't treat us any differently.
In the year leading up to the tournament, I became pregnant with our first child. We were making plans to deliver not just the baby, but the event.
My daughter was born in the November. Obviously wonderful experience, but it was also quite difficult. But it gave me maternity leave, which was actually quite valuable. So I wasn't having to work and do the World Cup as well. I was just having a baby and doing the World Cup. So I'd be typing and phoning and doing things while she was asleep. A few times I had to say to my husband, can you just take her away for a few hours? And he'd have to take her off to watch football.
I said to my husband, in hindsight, you think, what were we thinking? Why did we not pay attention to dates and what 9 months later would mean? So ended up having a baby on the 30th of March before the tournament started on the 6th of April.
Not only, was I working on that tournament for a year, but I was preparing for it as a player. I wanted to play for England. I wanted to be that starting hooker in 1991. So I had to make myself the best version of me possible. And I was the first woman in the UK to take on a fitness coach. I took on a sports psychologist, and I took on a nutritionalist to make sure that I was fueling myself. And when I hit that tournament, I was ready. This is the first time that all these women's international teams got together. It was amazing.
Hi. This is Frosty.
Hi. Hi.
And this is Jake.
Jack, hi.
It was super emotional because we were traveling together and we were so excited to meet other countries. We were really in the state of mind that we were athletes for the first time. We just looked one each other saying, they exist. In reality, we exist. We exist as a community. So feeling like pioneers.
The opening ceremony was an incredibly special day. All the teams were in their tracksuits with the little placards.
We have a uniform, a new uniform. When the federation recognized us, they sent us incredible, unbelievable tracksuit, like a green, but we seemed astronaut. So we felt so ridiculous. All the team were in blue, black, white, green, so really serious. We were like flashing with our flair of Italian. Everybody look at us. Wow, Italian fashion. We look at us and say, how is possible that they look at us with these so enchanted eyes?
I was lucky enough to do the opening speech as Captain of Wales.
It is not the winning, but the honour of taking part that is of paramount importance.
Yn olaf, mae'n rhaid I mi gofio na dim yr ennill sydd yn bwysig, ond yr anhyder o gymryd rhan.
It was the opportunity to play against teams we'd never seen. Women from all over the world, from different cultures.
There was obviously a lot of relief that all the teams were there, which was brilliant.
It seems appropriate to be staging this event in Wales with its inherent love of rugby. It has been a delight while organising this event to find so many willing hands and be encouraged by so many quarters in Wales.
I'd never met people from Russia, I'd never met people from New Zealand. We love singing, New Zealand loves singing, and one team would try and outdo the other team with their songs. So yeah, we had a lot of fun and laughter. Then you get the Swedish people there exchanging, you know, roll mop fish after the games.
We had to play our games within a 10-day period. There was no wiggle room. What we didn't account for was the weather.
Gathering itself out there on the Atlantic, a new lump of cloud sweeping its way in from the southwest, bringing wet and windy weather to all parts of the country before the day is out.
This is where the England-Spain match took place.
It was raining so much and it was really freezing cold and most other games in the country were called off. We had to go ahead.
It was the coldest day I think any of us had ever experienced. We beat them. But after the game, we all went into the showers and literally stood in the showers for, you know, half an hour. We were just absolutely frozen.
England won, and we were expecting that result, so that was okay. We could live with it as Welsh players. The stand was quite full, and compared to the amount of people that we used to see on a regular Sunday League match, it was amazing. It showed that women's rugby was serious and it was here to stay.
When we saw the Russian, they were enormous, super strong women, super tall and super big.
The Russian women's rugby team have been living in student accommodation in Cardiff, but even that's proving too expensive.
The Russians weren't allowed to take any money out of the Soviet Union, and they arrived with 5 cases of stuff, and they had 2 coaches and 2 interpreters who were, for all purposes, KGB. They had a lot of cucumbers, and they seemed to live on these cucumbers a lot. They didn't have any money for food. They were really hungry.
They would go in and do a sweep of the breakfast before any of the other teams came down.
They've been taking about 5 breakfasts at a go, which we would love them to have, but quite frankly, other people want them as well, and sort of living on cornflakes for lunch. And the fact is, I mean, they're out there playing rugby, and some of them are very large, and they need food.
The Russians started selling their wares, which were the Russian dolls, vodka, and other little trinkets, on the steps of City Hall, right in front of the authorities.
This morning, the team coach was summoned to meet customs and excise officials who'd heard they'd even been selling vodka.
Will you be inspecting their luggage and their accommodation? No comment.
The authorities knocked on my door to tell me that they were selling vodka. So I had to deal with that.
The Russians admit they have vodka, but nothing like the crate stacked 5 feet high that they're alleged to have brought with them.
All those vodka were intended to be drank with the friends from the National Federation and with the organizing committee officials.
The people of Cardiff were incredibly generous. They got pizza, some people anonymously just gave them money, M&S vouchers.
Quite a turnaround for the poverty-stricken players of Russia's rugby team, who, thanks to a little help from their friends in Cardiff's business world, found themselves with £80 each to spend on something a little more flattering than shin pads and shorts.
They went and bought all sorts of strange stuff in Marks and Spencer's that we didn't expect them to buy, but there we are. Enormous bras and enormous pants, but that was their choice. But they also left us with the bill for their accommodation, and that included a broken sink. How on earth do you break a sink? Anyway, they did.
Oh, wow. This is the pool game against Canada. I've forgotten we had those shirts. Oh, high tackles there. Everybody diving in. That's unbelievable. We wanted to get out of our pool. That was our ambition. And this was a try that Pip scored. She ran the length of the pitch. Yes, go on, Pippi. That's what I remember all the way. I just remember going, run! Oh, it's just brilliant. And we were in the lead at this point. It was a bloody brilliant try. This is them scoring now as well, isn't it? Oh, and that's just a conversion. This must have been about the 100th minute. We drew. Frustrating, but that's crazy to look at that. That's unbelievable. I think it was about 120 minutes played by the referee. He didn't want to blow the final whistle. And then afterwards, I was like, what were you thinking of? And he was like, I was really enjoying the game.
A piece of my life, my jersey, my first jersey. And it was my first cap against England in April 1991.
Normally, people who came to our matches was the father, the mother, the fiancé. So having people that comes to see us was really incredible. The Welsh people were so lively and so fancy and so welcoming. It was like a big party. The match was tough. We were leading until the 60 minutes. But then one of our best players of the backs, Carla Negri, got injured. And we lost.
And I was described as head of press, which was hilarious because there was only me.
As it is such a young sport, holding a World Cup seemed almost overambitious.
Not at all. Anybody who comes along will have found within 10 minutes they forgot they were watching women playing rugby. We did have mobile phones, but they were about this big, and it was a heavy beast. So I had to lug this thing around all the time.
It was hugely difficult and very hard work. We were quite stressed and not sleeping. We were dealing with problems the whole time, making sure that everything was happening. I was also doubling up, like Alice was, as hosting games.
My biggest problem when we got there was trying to find the rugby grounds. No sat-nav. Places like Llanharan at the bottom of the Rhondda Valley, really hard to find. And I was always late. I would then be nobbled straight away for press interviews.
The appeal of rugby for women is exactly the same appeal as it is for men.
Yeah. Well, it's not surprising, it's the same game. There was quite a lot of just what are you doing running a World Cup? I mean, what are you thinking? I would ring in match reports to what was then called a copy taker, who's some bloke at the end of the phone did shorthand. And I'd ring in and say, right, I've got match reports from the Women's Rugby World Cup, the first round, and they go, oh, who's going to be interested in that?
There was no rest. You'd play a game, I think it was 2 days in between, and then you play the next game. It was brutal.
As soon as you stepped off the bus, there was just everybody walking towards the ground, a procession of people. I remember listening to the anthem. I just felt it in my heart. It filled my whole heart. Wow, that brings back so many memories. I remember this haka and looking at it and actually feeling a little bit of the fear.
Oh, this is crazy watching this. We had to win this game to stay in the tournament as well, I remember. Here we go. This winger, 14, the winger, she was just... I just saw the back of her shirt every time running in tries past us.
So excited, like I can feel my heart beating. So much skill within this game. Oh, how freaky is that? That is myself, that is me and my sister watching the game. That's crazy that I've just sort of seen that. Go on, Wales.
And Amanda Bennett kicking the penalty there. Oh, it's just brilliant.
It was absolutely buzzing here. The ground was buzzing. You know, all the men and the women that had come out to watch and all the children, you know, they were really getting behind Wales. You really were watching an international game. I remember Lisa Burgess as a stand-up because she was just so tall. I just remember watching it and thinking, I just really want to do this.
And the winger scores again. And that was us, I think, 8 of the main competition then.
Fair play, did very, very well. Very entertaining. It was, it's all running, see, they didn't kick anything, it was all running rugby. So that's what you like about rugby these days.
It already hooked me. It already got into my heart. I had to make sure that, you know, I went back and found the train times so I could get the train into Cardiff Arms Park to watch the final.
By that time, we were all so exhausted because we were, Debs and I were working 20 hours a day. I just remember feeling incredibly lonely. I remember feeling left out. 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm at my desk, and I get to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. By the final, we were just hanging, absolutely hanging.
It was a big day because we all got the train into Cardiff, a bunch of us friends from school. And it proper did feel like a proper big stadium.
We knew even going into the tournament that the Americans were the strongest side.
I had seen the Americans play. I knew the athletes they were. I knew England was going to have to be on top form if we were to beat the Americans.
So I was sat just over there in the middle of the pitch. I just remember that everyone was here, was really enjoying the occasion for what it was.
Brilliant. No, I love rugby. It's mad. Rugby's my life. I love it, and all the best to the women players. And I hope I hope it's a coming thing.
What do you think of women's rugby?
Well, it's not too bad considering, you know, and
Considering what?
Pretty tough. They're pretty tough.
And you don't think it's too much a game for the women then?
No, it's all right, you know. Well, you know, equality rights, this will sort them out, won't it?
Sitting in the stadium, obviously I knew many of the players because they were my contemporaries. And I was so proud, A, that England were in the final, but B, that, gosh, we made this happen.
There we were on the pitch, singing God Save the Queen. And I looked down, and 3 or 4 women that I knew were, you know, there singing the national anthem as well. And I had played with a lot of these women in the States. It was an odd moment, but, you know, I was England through and through.
England, they were all focusing on the pack. They were strong, super strong.
I remember the skill levels. I remember Karen Armand, the English outside half, who, you know, could really kick a ball.
It was a really close game and one that went back and forth.
But no one can just stop United States.
I think we were better in the forwards, but they had outstanding athletes in the backs.
They just moved the ball so quickly that they were astonishing and shocking the defense.
It was over. And that was devastating.
The first World Cup is always going to be a poignant moment, isn't it? I knew something very special had happened out there.
At the end of the tournament, there was a big gala dinner.
It was a lot of people just letting their hair down after what had been a very intense tournament. Just fabulous.
Everybody was having fun and everybody was singing. All those teams were just so incredibly elated of what just happened.
Seeing all the teams celebrating at the end was just amazing to see that we weren't just Swansea Uplands playing on a, you know, churned up pitch on a Sunday in the pouring rain in the middle of Wales. There was this whole movement of women's rugby that was happening across the world.
After the dinner, I got to bed about 2 in the morning and got up at 5, drove home, dumped my bags and went to work.
The next day, Debs went home with Victoria, Mary went home with her baby, Alice went to work, I got in my car, and I went to work. We all had to go back to our lives.
Afterwards, yeah, the financial situation was quite scary. We were left with debts. And there was this story going around that we were going to remortgage our properties, and if the RFU hadn't stepped in and helped out and cleared those debts, then we would have had to have done something like that. I
had a perilous job after this time of recession, and I was getting calls from journalists asking for information, asking for stuff, and my boss didn't like it at all. And ultimately, working on the World Cup contributed to me being fired.
My daughter, when she was born, had been born with a disability, and that had only happened 5 months earlier. So there was a lot of processing of that and getting used to that. And I went back to work. It was really, really tough. You know, I probably had a breakdown, although I never sort of recognised it.
And the interesting thing that we don't talk about is that we never spoke about it again. Isn't that strange? We never discussed it as a four again until recently. I think, to be honest, I think we were traumatized. It was just so hard. It was so hard. Debs went into isolation for 6 months. Alice lost her job. My marriage broke down. It was hard. And it came at a cost, a great personal cost.
It was a relentless, murderous 9 days.
I didn't see anybody. I didn't want to see anybody for about 6 months. I very much sort of just went into a cocoon, really. In the 50s. It's never expected to last.
My time in Cardiff was a blink. And it all happened and boom, we're gone. So to go back with the other three would be amazing for so many reasons.
Because I came down with the team, I had to be there early.
Yeah. We've not come together like that before.
I think we only stayed overnight one night.
I've known these women for 40 years, and they're still really good friends of mine.
I'd like to see a bit of Wales, because obviously we never saw any of Cardiff. We never saw anything.
Cardiff! After all these years.
This place is very different to what it used to be like, though. These buildings are new.
The big stadium hadn't been built then?
Yeah.
It was a stadium.
There was a stadium, but it wasn't this one. It wasn't the Millennium one, was it?
Oh my goodness.
Wow, look at this.
I remember coming out of the tunnel and just looking around, and it felt like there were 10,000 people in the stands. Honestly, it was the biggest crowd we had ever played in front of. And I remember people sitting on their balcony, hanging out their windows, you know, really taking in the game.
I remember the semi-finals. One of the refs was quite cute and came and chatted me up. So I can't remember the final at all.
I can remember being in the stands, and it was the first time I had to be aware of going, yay, with a newborn in your arms.
I remember handing my daughter at 5 months over to Stephen Jones, the rugby journalist, because I had to go and do something, and it was like looking around. And
who's safe? Who can take Victoria?
You have the baby. You have the baby.
But I also did an interview for News at 10. Just absolutely incoherent with exhaustion.
Oh my goodness.
Come in.
Can you believe it? Look at this.
Hi, buddy.
How many years
We brought
later?
the 34.
34.
I
No
know.
way.
Yeah.
So lovely to see you.
There are so many people who stepped in and helped out.
I can't believe
Local clubs put themselves forward, which was brilliant. One of the reasons we've come down today is I don't think we ever thanked the clubs, the Welsh clubs that hosted games, and I felt that was something that we should have done. So we would like to present Cardiff with this plaque. It's 34 years later, but you can never say thanks too late, can you? So, from us,
So
Cardiff
all of the
Rugby
clubs are
Football
gonna
Club.
have one?
yeah.
What you guys did is just unbelievable, and I genuinely can't thank you enough. It's such a huge honour on behalf of all the Welsh clubs. Diolch o galon.
Oh, thank you. We need another hug.
Without them, we couldn't have done it.
Yeah.
The 1991 World Cup was a big bang for women's rugby. It was like all the pieces of the puzzle get together. They were brave. They just follow the goats. They just think, let's do something beautiful.
It has had an immense impact on the game, more than I ever thought about.
All of a sudden I had the realisation that I could do this and I could play. And in '93, I gained my first cap for Wales. Having my dad and my brother and all my cousins lining up and singing that anthem, my dad and other family members grow a foot taller with pride. Him and my mum just flew all around the world watching me play. They never missed one of my international caps. 44 caps later, the '91 World Cup led to this moment.
We were quite naive back there and we didn't really understand what we were creating. We did it because it needed to be done, and we were doers, so we did it.
It's the final day of pool play at Rugby World Cup 2025, and for Italy and Brazil a chance to cap two very different campaigns. Italy's hopes of a knockout rugby have been dashed, while Brazil in their first ever World Cup have stamped their mark with flair, colour and passion, bringing Brazilian rugby to Northampton.